On 16th of November 2022, Blizzard announced that they are shutting down all their games in mainland China. It was due to failure to extend licensing with NetEase. 23rd of January 2023 was the last day China players could play Blizzard games. From now on, they only play from other regions. Ever since Tarisland was announced, it was seen by community as the WoW clone, WoW from Wish.com, and so on. And a couple days ago, this game was released, and I decided to check it out, to see if it is actually WoW clone, or WoW from Wish, or something even better, or even worse. Let's check it out. We'll start from the downloads and things like that. It uses the launcher from the same company as games such as Nike or Tower of Fantasy. No issues on that part. However, the first issues that I noticed were since I loaded up the game. I saw the cinematic, which looked pretty good. However, since I don't speak Chinese, I didn't understand a shit. It had no subtitles, I can only see what is going on. I mean, it looked cool, but it would be nice to have something from it. Then I decided to go on one of the servers, and there I made my first character. Since I am diehard warrior main in WoW, I decided to go for warrior. And one thing that shocked me kind of, that in 2024 there's MMO that has genderlord classes. You could play warrior only as a male, but there were just few classes that have both genders, and it felt like it's a relic of the past that still is kept alive. The customizations of all the characters are very weak, there isn't much else to go over. Then I went to a tutorial, which again was in Chinese, so I didn't understand a shit. However, you don't actually need to hear everything and understand everything. Although, if the game is English, I would guess that everything would be in English and not in Chinese. But I guess voice actors are expensive. Next, I noticed that when I started leveling up and so on, I noticed that everyone looks the same. They create the characters and that's how they look. I went quickly over through the menus and I saw that there's something like skins. There isn't any visual for the individual items like in WoW or Final Fantasy and so on. It's just static characters with different skins, which is alright in games such as League or Dota or Counter-Strike even, whatever. But in a game where you collect individual items and you put them on, it's bad. Classes feel interesting, at least Warrior felt enjoyable to play. It had everything I would expect it to have. It had charge, it had big damage, although I wasn't able to use one two-hander and I had to use two one-handers for some reason. But still, it was enjoyable nonetheless. Now let's move on to the story, locations and things like that. Locations look nice. They are very diverse, nothing is extremely similar. The minimap looks unfinished. You can see on the map that you are teleporting from one place to another. When it comes to story and cinematics, I have some issues, since I studied lore for over 10 years now, and I saw all these cinematics a bunch of times. I remember them by heart now. And I saw that you got these Tauren people, Minotaur, whatever called in this game, and these people are attacked by centaur, gnolls. It's a weird coincidence that the same race that used to trouble Tauren in WoW is now kinda doing the same in another universe to a race that looks kinda too similar to Tauren. It's kinda weird if you think about it. Although, as you can see, this cinematic kinda looks similar to what we have seen on Broken Shore. I'm not sure if that was intentionally or it was made as a, let's just say, some skeleton on which they would use their own characters, but to me it feels kinda fishy that it looks this much similar. Even though this game is reusing a lot of same scenes that WoW used in the past, Many players who played or still playing WoW casually won't even notice that these scenes are completely the same. It's just us lore nerds or us who play WoW for who knows how many years, almost 20 by now, notice these things. One thing that I have to say that Tarisland is doing very well is their animations. They are using much more advanced animations for their cutscenes than WoW does or WoW did in the past. Having NPCs moving some kind of objects such as boulders in this case, or putting body of some other NPC on their back, such as is the case of these Tauren people moving the dead son of their chieftain to some other place. The game sometimes uses very weird names for certain effects, CCs, status effects, and so on. One of them could be deceleration. For someone who is native English speaker, that could be nothing, but for me it is kinda difficult to know what it is. I would guess a lot of people who aren't native English speakers are playing these games, so for that reason I would use much easier word such as slow. Even though it's in the description, it could be the name of the status effect. Another one is knockout, which, let's be honest, that's kinda obvious. Knockout is known word, it's used in, for example, in MMA and so on, so that I wouldn't pay too much attention to. However, the deceleration and slow is one I would probably change, because it will be much easier for much bigger group of people. The game has incredible soundtracks. When I was listening through the game, nothing really stood up except for the soundtrack. It sounds so good, and no wonder. It's done by Russell Brower, the same guy who did a bunch of soundtracks for WoW, and it's noticeable. And lastly, I did go over a bit of PvP, PvE, to see what it is like. PvP, I did couple BGs. It wasn't very enjoyable experience, as I was in this one BG where we basically had to escort the payload and defend it or attack it. And that was it. I as a warrior had bad time because I was on the lower end of the bracket, which means I got farmed. And there's nothing I could do about it. A lot of 30s were there and they just rolled me. Maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it, but PvP felt really bad in comparison to WoW, for example. Meanwhile, PvE felt good. I did one normal dungeon and one elite dungeon that I had option to go through, and that was in this kind of library when there was. The trash was insignificant, as there was few mobs before each boss. And the dungeon had in total 3 bosses. First boss was some kind of fairy tale boss, which had these phases in one. We polymorphed everyone and sent wolves to chase the sheep, and you basically had to run away for like 30 seconds or so. And after that it is concluded, you fight the boss again. Then there was this phase where you had to fight ads who are trying to extinguish candles. It isn't novel, but it is interesting. And similar things is with quests in the story. Aren't the fetch quests that we have in WoW ever since 2004, but there are much more special quests where you actually do something else than, oh, can you help me kill these 5 boars? I need 5 meat to stay alive. Then can you kill 15 of these centaurs who are trying to siege our village? Thank you, adventurer, you're a lifesaver, and so on. This game didn't have that much of those, which was a pleasant surprise. Now let's get back to dungeons. The second boss had 3 elements, again 3 phases: boss, pyro, hydro, geo, and depending on which phase it is, you had to stop the ball by going over it, which, let's be honest, isn't that novel again, but it's interesting. For a low level dungeon, I didn't expect to see this. And last one was the usual ad spawn, you kill the boss, nothing special. The first one really stood up to me, that it's really interesting to see something like this. The second one is whatever, feels more like endgame-ish boss, and the third one is just the standard. I would say for the almost introduction dungeon, this feels really nice to see and really cool. There was, however, one thing that kinda shocked me to see. Tarisland is a free game, and for that reason I was wondering how will this game earn money, because it needs money to to pay for the servers, employees and things like that. Well, then I saw it. It has gacha system. Although this gacha system is just for skins, because you can have all kinds of things except for armor. You can have something on your head, you can have something on back, you can have different skin for a helm and things like that. And why not use a bit of gambling? That should work, that should give us plenty of money, and yeah, it probably will. But what ties to this kind of system is currency. The game has a ton of currencies, and these are the basic signs of predatory. Just look at games such as Diablo Immortal, all kinds of gacha games after all. They have all these things, numerous currencies, which player has to have hard time to orient. And yeah, and that was last thing that I basically noticed in this game. The game, I would say it's still like solid 5 out of 10. If you are playing on PC, there's other things you can do, there's other games you can play those. Tarisland isn't really worth your time. However, when it comes to mobile, because this game is also on mobile, that's why it has so low amount of abilities after all, play that if you like it, because after all, on mobile you'll have hard time finding actually better MMO. For mobile experience, it's really good. Even though I tried to find as many positives on the game, there is quite a lot of negatives that I personally cannot go over it. For me personally, it's like 5 out of 10, but give it a shot. It's up to you. You may like it, I did not. So that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and this type of content, and if you like this, you can comment, like down below and things like that. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.